Hi, and welcome to the 125th. This is going to be the second video. This is going to be, from what I think, a very short one. I've got the simulator paused here. I've got it set up to do a one-on-one dogfight with a MiG-21, and it usually ends surprisingly fast. A lot of things are going to happen here really quickly. Right now I'm in the standard nav mode, and what's going to happen is, as you can see on the radar screen right here, you've got this little symbol right here, and that means that this aircraft is, with that little line going down, that means it's going towards me, and the range is 20 miles on the radar on this setting, which means from this line to this line is a range of 20 miles. So basically this is it probably is around, I would say, 13 miles, 12, 13 miles away, coming towards me. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go ahead, and these two little lines here are the radar cursors, and I'm going to move these and lock onto this target, and that way I can pretty much steer the plane into this direction, going straight head on, and at that point, once I've got the aircraft right in front of me, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to dogfight mode, and depending on the range at that point, I'll need to select either medium range or short range missiles. Like I said, this usually happens really quickly. Normally everything's over in about a minute, more or less, from the point that we're gonna start at this point. I had to make sure that my countermeasures are turned on, because if he does fire at me first, I need to defend on that. But well, here we go. And again, this is going to happen very fast. Later on I get into more detail of getting ready to plan out a video on how to exactly do all this, and I'll show a step-by-step process on how to get all this, on how to set up everything, what buttons to push, in more detail. So this is basically a quick demo, and hope you enjoy.
Lock.
Okay, those are my flares going off.
Altitude.
It's a
Altitude.
hit. And that's it. It's pretty much over. So what happened there was locked on the target, selected. When I go into the dogfight mode, it'll automatically select the short range missile, and I'll show you in a minute what happened with times.
Yes!
So basically there it is, what actually happened. As you can see, first I shot the short range missile, and I had a miss on that. That was the short range heat seeking. Then he fired a shot, missed, shot released flares and chaff. Then at that point, at 6 minutes 11 seconds, 6 minutes 11 seconds, I switched over to medium range radar guided, the AIM 120s. I hit and damaged the aircraft. He ejected and it was down. So basically, it started at 12, and basically I was talking for like 5 minutes and 50 seconds, because basically when I unpaused it is a few seconds after that's when I took the shot, so that was at 5:56. So basically from 5:56 to 6:24, about a minute and a half. So that's usually what the time frame of a real life dogfight is. It doesn't really take very long at all. It's very quickly. Alright, well, hope you enjoyed that, and have a great day. Okay, as I mentioned before, in the video, I was gonna just leave it like that and just edit it and just put it up on YouTube just the way it was, but I decided to put in a little bit more information out there of what happened. So basically, the documentation on this is in the program itself. You go here where it says documentation and manuals, click on that, and it will be on the Falcon BMS manuals. You go to the -1 file, and this would be the flight manual, and I'm going to show you on the HOTAS, which is the joystick and the throttle, the hands-on throttle and stick combination. I'm going to show you exactly which buttons I used to do what I did. So I'm going to scroll down here to page 25. And here it is. This is the throttle, which is located on your left hand side of the cockpit. Here you can see what each thing is. This is the fuel cutoff switch, your comm switch, your manual range knob right here, number 3, your antenna elevation knob. This one is one that I used on that particular video, which is your dogfight switch, and number 6 is the speed brake switch. I didn't use that one, and I did use this one here, which is the cursor enable, which is what I used to move those little cursor lines. So basically that's like a little hat switch that you just move around in it, and it moves the cursor. So this is on the throttle, and it explains what each switch does. Sorry I can't flip this over to the side, kind of have to tilt your head a little bit on here, but it explains, you know, what each switch does. The important ones that I want to get into for the video that we just saw was this one here, which is the cursor enable. That's what I use to move left and right and up and down, to move the cursor to overlay it on top of that target, and then the rest was done on where's the that's the throttle. Where's the stick? This manual goes into detail on what each indicator does. There it is. Alright, this would be on your right hand side, and these I use pretty much everything in that little video of the dogfight with the MiG-21. This would be your weapons release. This is what fired the missile. This is your target management switch right here. It goes up and down and side to side. To lock the target, it's TMS up. To unlock the target, it's TMS down. So that's how you pretty much lock the target. Now, when you're in dogfight mode, that changes what happens. It becomes instead of lock and unlock, what it does is it becomes bore sight or 30-60 radar range, which is basically, let's say this will be like the HUD screen. It drew that line that went up and down, and what it does is it, instead of being a bore sight, which is like a straight cross going down, you know, straight out from the plane like a laser, what the radar does is it produces a very narrow up and down beam. There's not much coverage side to side. It's just basically straight up and down, and that's very, very handy in a dogfight because usually you're in a turning fight. You're either straight on or turning, so it kind of, if you're in a turning fight and you got that line going up and down, then it'll be easier to lock on a target that is way above here as you're turning or below. So yeah, it's hard to explain, but it pretty much explains it on the manual. So that will be that. That's what I use to lock that on. Another important switch that I used is this little one right here, the missile step. This has actually three, well, actually like 4 functions on just that one switch, depending on what mode you're on. It's the missile step. If you're in air-to-air mode, what it'll do is if you hit that button, a quick touch, what it'll do is it'll select, let's say you have 4 missiles going across the plane. and all those 4 missiles are the same type. If you keep hitting that on the SMS page, the system, the stores management system, what it's going to do is there's going to be a little highlighted cursor on that hard point that's going to move, so you can basically pick which missile you want to let go. Another function that it has is if you hold it down for more than half a second, what it'll do is it'll change the type of missile that you have selected. For example, if you have short-range heat-seeking missiles, let's say, for example, you got medium range, and you know that aircraft gets closer to you, then you need to switch over to the short-range Sidewinder heat-seeking. You just hold that button down for more than half a second, and it'll switch from the different types of missile, like from the medium range to a short range and vice versa. When you're on the ground, when your nose wheel is actually touching the floor, you'll hit that to toggle your nose wheel steering. You want to turn that off if you're on takeoff, so that you don't cause the plane to dart off really hard to the left when you're hitting the rudder. So that's what that does. And then okay, and then that's what the nose wheel steering does, and it also disconnects when you're doing the aerial refueling. So that's one switch doing many different functions depending on the mode that you're on. That's really pretty cool how that works. This will be your countermeasures management system. This is what I use to. I always have it set for a bypass mode, which is basically a manual release. I release how many flares manually. In other words, if I hit the button once, which is CMS up, which will be kind of going forward, then it'll release 1 flare and 1 packet of chaff. So that helps me control how many gets dispensed. So every time you saw that flash, that means I hit forward that many times. Say I want 5 flares to go off and 5 shaft packets, I gotta hit that forward 5 times for that to work. So essentially that's kind of what I used on the throttle. Let me go down here. I should show it here. Well, no, it actually is on that other page that I showed you a little while ago, page 25. But on the throttle, I'll move the cursor and put it over the target. That way I can steer towards it, so I can find it in the sky, basically, because visually I can't see it. I'll lock onto it using the cursors on the throttle, and then using TMS up to lock it on. And then once I'm kind of facing the aircraft, I know it's pretty close, I'll switch on over with the dogfight switch that's on the throttle, and then hit once that happened, hit TMS down to get that 3060 line, and that's when you heard the I mean, I hate to say it, but that's what it's called. It's called Bitchin' Betty. That's that sound where it says lock, lock, that voice. So that's TMS down to get that radar mode on, and then once you get a lock, then you hit you press the weapon release for more than half a second. You have to keep it holding down for it to fire. You just don't touch it, it won't do anything. You have to keep it pressed down. And that was basically the how I got everything to work. The cool thing about that is everything that I did and that little 1 minute dogfight, I changed from nav mode to dogfight mode, and eventually you can switch back to nav mode, all without removing your hands from the stick and the throttle. So everything is pretty much controlled from there without ever needing to remove your hands from your control levers. One thing that I didn't mention is the display management system switch right here. One main function of it is DMS down, which changes your SOI, which is a subject of interest, from one MFD to another MFD, which are those two little multifunction displays that are on the cockpit. And we'll get into that when we have to address, like, for example, firing Mavericks at tanks or vehicles or whatever the case may be. We'll get into subject of interest, because you need to, depending on where the subject of interest box is, it determines what these switches will control, either the left display or the right display. So I hope that helped. I'm gonna go ahead and put the I'm gonna play that video again, of that short little 2-minute video of me actually doing the dogfight, the minute and a half footage. I'm gonna put it back and play it, and now that you know what buttons and what switches I used, I'm gonna run through it again, and I'm gonna pretty much let you know when I pushed what and when I did what. So I'm gonna stop the video here for a quick moment and pull up the other file. Okay, I got the volume down on the video so you can hear my voice better. But there goes the cursor using the buttons on the throttle. That's locked using TMS up on the joystick. This is the target designator box, that square that was there. I hit the dogfight switch, which changed that. There's the TMS down that created that up and down line that I was talking about. There's a diamond when the aircraft is at. That was a sidewinder. Here you can see right there, see the missile right there? My flares going off. So that was using TMS down. So that was using TMS down to get that line going straight up the HUD. That way you get the that range to lock on. And that was pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed this.